Today we'll be covering the career of one of the greatest American discus throwers of all time, Sam Mattis.
All right, greatest might be a lot, but let's break it down.
Sam, welcome to The Void. That is the blue void of the Throws University studio. Now, there is one rule when you enter the blue void of Throws University. That is, in order to escape the void, you must record at least one YouTube video. So today we are covering your entire career from the very first day you picked up a discus to your first NCAA title, to your 2 USA national titles, and your 2 Olympic qualifications. Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always cool spending time in the void or the abyss, but I guess if this is how I got to get out, let's do it.
Well, you could say that the longer time you spend in the void eventually looks back.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think you'll see in the void? How deep are we going in the void today?
Not too deep. I got to get home and cook, so.
Fair point. This man's got some roasting to do. So we're going to start off with what is one of the coolest videos I've ever watched as a Throws fan. I watched this video so many times in high school. Sam, you and I were 1 year apart. You graduated in 2012. I graduated in 2013. But the year between my high school senior year, your father created one of the coolest throwing videos I've ever seen. And this is your high school progression from 2008 to 2012.
It's a good video, though.
So, Sam, what are we seeing right now?
You're seeing me in Starberry sneakers on an elementary school blacktop throwing a rubber 1K disc with my friend Max.
Is this the first time you ever threw discus?
No, I think that's probably 9th grade. 8th or 9th grade. I forget when I had the cornrows because I did it for both years a little bit. So the first time I threw it wasn't actually a discus. I was just really excited to throw in 8th grade. Oh, I think it was 8th grade because I know this throw was in 8th grade. We had like 2.5 pound weights in my basement and I just started throwing those and I had like kind of good feeling, and eventually, like once the season started, picked up a real disc, and that was my best throw in 8th grade. I think it was 137 feet with the 1K, which at that time I was like so hyped up about.
And yours you do actually doing other track events.
Doing a horrible long jump.
So in another timeline, in another universe, you were a long jumper.
No, I don't think that ever would have happened. I think I'm too big for that.
One thing I'm curious about, though, is you were spinning all the way back then when you first started. Were you the only kid spinning in middle school at the time?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people did. Obviously, like a lot of people did stand throws, but I just started spinning, I think, after my second meet.
So this is the video you're talking about. You look so hyped.
Oh, I was super hyped up. That was like a 20-foot PR. This is me doing a South African and going into 9th grade, I think. Yeah, I think that was 9th grade.
Dude, that's a really good finish, honestly.
That's a harder block than I have now. It's the Starberries. I got to start throwing in those again.
So I think some context is needed here. Your father threw in college, right?
Yeah, he was a good shot putter in high school. I want to say he might have been New York City champ or pretty good. Probably threw like 60-ish feet in high school, and then went to college, threw shot and hammer. Shot, I think he threw just under 18 meters or just over, and hammer he threw maybe 60 in the 65 to 70 range. I don't think he got over 70. But yeah, he had the William & Mary record for a while.
So we kind of saw that, like, you know, you had a good progression. You're happy with the 137, but now you're starting to develop like pretty solid technique, like pretty young. Like you're 14, 15 right here.
I think I'd be 15. Yeah.
And you broke the New Jersey freshman record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Threw 169 as a freshman and had a couple other throws in like the 150s, 160s. I think I just had a good feel for it and I really enjoyed it and I just wanted to be really good at it. So from 8th, 9th grade, I just started throwing just about maybe not every day, but pretty close.
Were you pretty attracted to like individual sports when you were younger?
Not really. I did a little bit of everything when I was a kid, like dumb neighborhood sports, like rec league basketball and soccer for a couple years. Did baseball for 2-3 years. football when I was in 8th grade. I don't know if I did any individual sports until track. And even when I was doing track, like I wanted to be good. But I was like, oh, this will keep me in shape for football. And then by the end of the season, like in 8th grade, I was like, I think I want to actually just do track. I'm having a really good time. But yeah, I just liked it. And it's like, it's not like my dad pushed me. I didn't even know how good he was until I started throwing in high school.
Really?
Yeah. I just knew it was like a thing he did. But once I started actually throwing, he was like, oh, I could teach you a couple things, and kind of just snowballed from there.
So he kind of like passed over your sophomore year. Like you hit a big jump throwing almost 200 feet, like as a sophomore. Like, were you doing a lot of strength training? Like how in deep were you in throwing at this point? Even just a sophomore. Now we're looking at your junior national record. Sorry, your junior class state record. Sorry, at 207.
Yeah, so freshman to sophomore year was the first time that I like really dedicated myself to the sport, I think, where I was practicing probably 5 days a week in the summer. From summer to that spring, we started seeing some outside coaches to get some help because like my dad is a good coach and knew stuff, but like understood that to get to where I wanted to go, I would need some help too. So we started seeing some people. So had, some actual technical ideas behind the throw. And I think it's not like I had a growth spurt, but I just filled out a little bit from freshman to sophomore year. Like I was never a skinny kid.
Right.
But I just got like actually a little bit strong too.
What would be your advice to like any high school kids like that are training right now? They see a video like this and they kind of see like, I think what's cool about this video is you pretty much show the beginning of your career in that people are seeing very relatable distances, but then it's like, the gap might widen once you start looking at your, sophomore years and on. What do you think would be advice that you give high school kids currently that might be watching to one, improve in high school, but like, maybe just like the motivation they need to keep going if they see like they're not hitting these kind of distances?
Yeah, I think, distances will come. It's cool when it goes far. It's frustrating when it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the big thing in high school, I wish I worked on my technique more and kind of trusted in my dad and my coaches a little bit more. I probably would have gotten further and had some, fewer frustrating days. I think the big thing in high school and college too is just like, if you're working at it, you're going to get better. Because I don't think you're getting to the level where you have like maxed out all of your physical and mental attributes when you're in high school or college. Like no way. Like it's not like just technique is the only room for improvement in those years. It's like you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger, you're getting a better feeling. So even if what you're doing isn't 100% correct every single day, just keep working at it and you'll get better. And I think in terms of motivation, like I was super lucky in that I got pretty good very quickly. But when you look at like one of my training partners, Alex Rose, I don't know if he threw over like 180 in high school. And now he's like number 11 all time of anybody who has ever thrown a discus.
Well, he didn't even throw 60 meters in college.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So one thing I want to highlight here is we're coming up. This is your overall New Jersey state record, which still stands, correct?
Yep.
218, where you beat Heisman Trophy winner Ron Dane's previous state record. One thing we'll see, coming up, but like, what did a throw like that mean to you at the time?
That's what I was going for my senior year. Like I mean, junior year a little bit too, but never got there. But senior year, I was like, I really want to break the state record, and we'll see what happens after that. And I think this meet might have gotten delayed by a day. I was actually going to go with some of my friends to Childish Gambino concert.
That's awesome.
I know the day that meet was supposed to, or the night after that meet was supposed to happen, but it got delayed. So I missed the concert, which I was bummed about. But, ended up breaking the state record the next day. So that was awesome.
Take the good for the bad. And honestly, with the good here, you were also like Penn Relays champion. And at the time in the early 2010s of Penn Relays, this was like this is probably the biggest discus meet in the nation for high school athletes, because that's when Jamaica athletes would come up. And I think crazy. The year prior, I want to say it was Travis Smeichel, who has been a competitor of yours for, throughout your professional career. He threw like 233 at the meet, something crazy. Yeah. And then you come out the following year, throw 211. So you kind of took the title back from Americans. What was the experience like winning that meet from the year prior, seeing what Smeichel did? knowing like what the Penn relays meant to you as a high schooler.
Yeah, so my dad's Jamaican, like
Okay.
born and raised in Jamaica, that whole side of my family.
I actually did not know that. This
Really?
is news to me.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
known this guy for 10 years now, and I did not know that.
So Jamaicans go crazy for Penn relays. Like they go crazy for track. On the east coast of the U.S., they go crazy for Penn relays. If you ever go to a Penn relays, like most of the flags in the stands are Jamaican flags.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also at the time where Usain Bolt came to Penn relays. So it was like for me to just be there, I think sophomore year was the first time I made Penn relays. And like at the time, it was the coolest thing ever just to be a part of that meet. And then, so sophomore year, I think Chad Wright won. He's Jamaican.
Yep. My
junior year, I think it was Smichaels who won, also Jamaican. And my senior year, this was after I'd committed to going to Penn also. I ended up winning. So it was like maybe 60 degrees in late April, which was great for me. I think this is actually why I won, because Dakers was throwing and it was like his turn to win. But it was 60 degrees, which was freezing for the Jamaicans. So they were all huddled in a corner in like winter jackets trying to get warm. But I was feeling great because like I've lived in New Jersey, so 60 degrees felt awesome. And I was super hyped up for the meet and ended up having a pretty good day. I think that was like my second or third furthest throw in high school, something like that. So I mean, that's like one of my favorite track memories for sure.
Yeah, I think Penn Relay is just, it's awesome. I had the chance to compete there my senior year. It's probably the greatest meet that I've competed in. I actually liked them more than Nationals, to be honest. I thought the vibe was even better.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to touch on, the last thing as we cover your high school career, is this is what apparently is the farthest throw you've ever had in high school. And this is you throwing 225. I'm not sure where the foul is. Oh, okay. It was a warm-up. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think your dad claims this is over 225. Was the high school national record ever a goal for you your senior year?
Oh, for sure. I don't know how realistic it would have been, but I had a couple practices in high school, like 225-ish, give or take a couple feet, depending on like the wind. I think that was actually the throw.
Okay.
Didn't end up. I mean, it was still a warm up, but just didn't end up finishing the throw, so it like went over the bleachers. But high school, you don't know what's realistic or not, and you see yourself improving. So it was like, oh, I can keep getting better in a linear fashion. No worries. So it would have been cool, but still had a great career.
Yeah, and we'll fast forward to your college career. So your junior year, it's 2015. Like you said, you competed at University of Pennsylvania, and you captured the NCAA championship in the discus, throwing, I believe, over 62 meters. Mm-hmm. And what did this championship mean for you, knowing where you came from in high school? You were the number one guy in high school, and a few years to develop. Junior year, capture the NCAA title. Was this something you kind of expected, or was this something where I'm really prioritizing academics and it's like if it happens, it happens?
I think going into college, again, dumb high schooler, I'm like, I'm just going to continue to get better 10, 15 feet every single year. Mm-hmm. And that's not how sports work. Right. So by the time I got to my junior year, I was probably starting to get a little bit frustrated because I think the year before I threw 62, and that year I'd also been throwing 62. I had a couple practices that were further, but nothing like crazy to the point where I was expecting to be. And then, I went to Penn, got a degree in econ, and expected to just work afterwards. Like in the back of my mind, I was like, it'd be really cool if I could go pro and track, but never really thought that was going to happen. But then I think after this meet was when I was like, oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna give this a shot and just go all out.
So I think one of the coolest parts about this video in particular is just they managed to capture your reaction with your dad, and then there's Noah. Former GS thrower, your old teammate Noah Kennedy White right there next to him. The emotion between all three of you is just, I don't know how to describe it. How would you describe that moment? You obviously were there.
I mean, it's hard to describe. So I won on my sixth throw. I'm not sure if I was leading at any point during the comp. I might have been, but it was very close, like a couple people throwing around 62. And then my last throw, I ended up winning by a couple centimeters. But I mean, my dad was the first person who introduced me to throwing and discus and had coached me all through high school and was helping coach me in college too. And then Noah was like my day one homie in college. So just having both of them there for that experience was just, I don't know. It was like overwhelming to win and then just run over to them and feel all that.
Absolutely. I think what we notice is you've had a lot of really good moments at the University of Pennsylvania, your alma mater, and Eugene, which we'll be covering in upcoming videos. One being your college PR of, throwing over 67. This is your senior year. You're already NCAA champion, but you added about 5 meters to your personal best on this throw. Take me back
Yeah.
to this day.
Well, it was my 22nd birthday actually, which is funny. And the year before, like I was saying, I was a little frustrated because I only threw 62 in comp, but I had a couple, throws and fouls that were in the 64-ish range. So I knew I could throw further. I think the Olympic standard at the time was 65. So the whole point of, early season that year was like, all right, I got to throw 65. It had actually just stopped snowing a couple hours before this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was probably a decent wind coming in from whatever storm. And it was the first meet in college. And, in college, high school and college, and, sometimes early pro days too, you're not really thinking about all the technical work and the details of the throw and all the work you put in. You're like, all right, this is my first meet. I'm going to rip it. And that is exactly what I did.
A true thrower.
Yeah, 1 out of 100 times that works. And this is one of the days where it did.
So I just as a quick sidebar, because we're really going to see the evolution of your technique when you kind of change coaching situations following your collegiate career. What do you think now, knowing your goals and movement? What do you think of this technique now?
I think the back is actually pretty solid. I don't think a ton has really changed there. The sweep into the circle's okay, but you'll see like my left shoulder dips while I'm going into the circle, and that kicks the left foot up, and I end up kind of like hunched over and balled up. And like this particular throw, I caught it pretty far back, and I was so hyped up that I just managed to work through that position. But most of the times that's not gonna really work out. So I feel like I'm a lot more balanced now for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest key indicator of your change is like your left. I don't think I've ever seen you get your left foot that high since seeing you as a professional.
That was like one of the main things that Dane and I worked on after like probably 2017. We were like, this, like, if you want to be at a certain level and be consistent, like you need to get the left foot down quicker and move lower.
So speaking of Dane, like, you transition out of college, you graduate, and then you decide to transition coaches into Dane, who at the time, Dane wasn't really on social media. He doesn't have the gym that he has now. He didn't coach really any professional athletes at the time. He worked out of a 400-year-old barn.
He sure enough did.
He ate raw potatoes.
Did and does a lot of gross stuff. Yeah.
You had to throw next to chickens, goats, donkeys.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to train with Dane Miller here?
Man, when you're 22 and desperate, you do dumb stuff. So that's all I've got to say about that. No, but like, I think one of the big things is I had met Alex Rose earlier that year. Actually, let me go back another step. So I went to school at UPenn in Philly. We're up in Reading here, which isn't too far. It's like an hour and a half drive from Philly. One of my friends who had graduated 2 years earlier had gotten really into weightlifting. So Dane was on his radar, and he was like, why don't we just go up and like have a training session with Dane and see how it goes? And it was just great. Like, we vibed, and it was just like good energies mixing, and I thought he had some pretty good ideas training. I think actually without that connection, I don't know if I would have ended up with Dane. But then eventually, after seeing Dane like once every month, then once every 2 weeks, I met Alex Rose, who ended up qualifying for the Olympics and having like a huge PR, throwing 65 in 2016. Loved Alex, and just seeing his progression with Dane. I kind of had a choice between coming up here and going out to the Olympic Training Center, and the Olympic Training Center in San Diego is just so nice. Besides the dorming situation, but I think.
So you chose this.
I chose to throw into a goat pasture for the first 2 years out of college. Yeah. And lift in a barn where the floor was falling apart and there was no central heating. So we had to put logs in a wood stove when we showed up in the morning in the winter. Yeah. When you're 22, you do a lot of stupid stuff.
Hey, look where you're at now. You fast
Still
forward 9
here,
years,
dude.
now you're stuck in the void.
I'm still, in the void. Still Reading, but the void in Reading.
So you were training with Dane. He was getting you ready for the trials. Obviously, there's only a limited amount of time that you have in between, graduating now and then. But take me back to your first trials. This is 2016. You start wearing the pen. This is, I believe, your last meet competing in the pen uniform, right? Mm-hmm. Take me back to this day. What did you think of competing here at your first trials?
Oh, it was a lot. That's a lot of pressure for a college kid. I think there are only a couple meets in my, big meets in my career where I think I've, really underperformed or choked at, and this is probably one of them. It wasn't, all within my control, and here comes an excuse. It started pouring after the first round, so I think just about everybody's best marks were from that first round. I think I probably, if it hadn't rained, would have at least made the final and maybe squeaked out a decent throw after that. But it was a lot to handle, and I just didn't handle it well, wasn't ready for it, and didn't make the team.
Well, I mean, you still threw almost 61 meters on this toss right here.
Yeah, those were the qualifying rounds, because I was in shape to throw probably 61, 62, maybe 63, all of which would have made the team. But having a good first throw was incredibly important that meet because of what happened to the weather, and didn't do that and didn't make the team.
You bounce back, fast forward 3 years, you go to the 2019 Nationals in Des Moines, Iowa, capture your first senior national championship thrown over 66 meters. The coolest thing about this throw is you did it round one, which has now become sort of a staple of your career. You seem to get things done early in these national meets. Take me back to the emotion on this throw, but also knowing you will qualify for the World Championship.
Yeah, I think so. Up in time a little bit. So 2016 didn't make the team, partially rain, partially me. 2017 full on choked, fouled out. And then there wasn't a team for 2 more years. So by 2019 I was like, okay, I absolutely have to make this team. I want to make the Olympics next year. I thought 2020 was probably going to be my last year, and I was like, if I want to make the Olympic team, I need to be able to show up at nationals when there's a team on the line and throw far. I'd had a great season. I think I threw over 66 2 or 3 times that year. One of my most consistently far throwing seasons that I've had, if not the best, except for maybe 2022. And I mentally knew I can do this. I just got to go out there and do it. And that's what I did first throw.
Yeah, man. I think what is even cooler is if you look at everything you've done from high school to college, the technique and evolution is so evident on this throw. Look how low your left foot is. Look how fast you get. You catch it deep, and you just look so strong on that finish.
Yeah.
I know I'm just glazing Sam right now, but that's what the show's about, right?
Dane is really good at getting people strong, so I have gotten much stronger since coming out here to Reading, and I think that, there was a huge difference between my body in 2016, 17, and even 2019. So I think, there's still a bunch of things that I don't love about that throw from 2019, but I was strong and the technique was solid enough that I was able to rip it.
So now we fast forward. We're still that season. This is they don't really have this meet anymore. It's the USA versus Europe meet. This is in Budapest in 19. Competed for Team USA. Was this the first time you competed for Team USA?
Yeah, first time that I was on the senior team. I was on a U23 team, and I wish I did the junior stuff, but I just never did.
Right.
But yeah, this was my first time in a senior uniform for the USA versus Europe match, which was super fun. I wish they did more stuff like this. I think I threw 63 was my best, which I was really happy with as first big international meet. That was awesome. It was in Belarus, which was insane. Can't go there now. It was a strange place. But yeah, it was one of the couple hundred Americans I think who had maybe ever been there, which is kind of funny to think about. And it was a fun meet to compete in.
Wait, was it? What do you mean couple hundred?
So our group as part of Team USA when we were there was the largest group of Americans to ever have gone to Belarus. And then the pandemic was the next year. And then 2 years after that, Russia invaded Ukraine. And now no one can go to Belarus.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, especially just, with what you're talking about your personal life a lot, the geopolitical aspect of your
So
professional
weird.
career and like what you talk about in day to day is like crazy.
Yeah.
How it all lines up together.
It's bizarre. And then Qatar.
So now we'll fast forward another few months, and now you, like you said, you won the national championship in 19. Now we're fast forwarding to the world championships in Doha. We have some of your training footage here.
Oh, cool.
We'll just watch one, and then I think we should have footage of you actually competing. Dane captured all this. There's actually a lot of really good footage here that I think I need to share to the Throws University audience. A lot of good training.
I think we might have some videos of Jaime here too.
We might. I mean, here's Asan Haddadi, and he's
that's awesome.
Olympic silver medalist in 2012. And there's Big Head Dane. But yeah, there's Alex competing. I think we should.
I think I was flight 2 if Alex was 1. Or no, maybe I was 1. No, who knows? Yeah.
Okay, there you are. So, like, this is your first Worlds. Like, I know you had experience at the USA versus Europe meet, but how was the vibe different at this championship versus other ones you've competed in?
It was interesting. I mean, I was super hyped up because it was my first Worlds. I was in pretty decent shape, made the final like at my first Worlds, which was really cool. Ended up throwing just under 64 meters, which for me in a stadium at the time was like awesome. Should it have been in Qatar? Probably not. Should the World Cup have been there? Probably not. Are the two linked? Yeah, look into it. It's kind of crazy. So the vibe in the stadium and Doha was odd.
Yeah.
But it was like just being at a Worlds the first time was really cool. Being there with like, all the throwers that I had watched growing up was super cool, and meeting them and becoming friends with them. I think this was the first time I met Matt Denny too, and now we hang out a lot. And first time being at an international meet with Alex Rose, which was awesome. So it's a cool experience.
I think what this meet also showed was establishing the consistency in your career of making finals and consistently being probably the highest placer of the American teams for most of these championships. Because you've probably been the most consistent finalist on the world stage and or Olympic stage of the Americans currently. So I think you started establishing that career. So now let's go fast forward 2 more years. We're at the Olympic trials, where it should have been 1 year, but due to a global pandemic, 2 years in the future. Sam, you made your first Olympic team. Ignore the distance. Ignore the distance. It is what it is. Take me back to this moment. Now, this was round 5 throw, but you go into your last throw. When did you realize, one, you made the team, but then the emotion that you were feeling knowing that you did make the team?
I don't think I knew until my throw, because I was in 3rd, I think. And I think Reggie had just bumped Brian out. So, yeah, I didn't know until after Brian threw. And I mostly couldn't believe it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I had worked so hard and everything was kind of like going the way I wanted to into 2019, and then the pandemic, and then 2020, 2021, just for a variety of reasons, did not go the way I wanted to with training and performance. Opened the season at like 58, maybe. Just like zero connection with the disc. Had a really, really struggle bus of a season. So I wasn't really expecting much from Olympic trials. I was mostly expecting to be bummed afterwards, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go in there and give it my best shot. And at the end, somehow made the team. And I was like, well, I guess that's why you try.
Yeah.
And was mostly like, all right, damn, that was crazy. Like, took a little bit for all the anxiety and stress to wash off of me. And then was mostly just like very grateful. And then was like, all right, got to prep for Tokyo.
Was this the most anxious you've ever been for a meet?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because at most meets, regardless of how I do beforehand, I like kind of know about how I'm going to do, give or take. So I'm like, all right, like that's what I'm shooting for, or a little past that. Like I feel ready. I feel prepared. I've done what I could. And then going into this meet, I was like, I don't know how to throw anymore. So let's see what happens.
Well, Sam, I can confidently say you still knew how to throw, because fast forward 2 more months, and in the sense that there was no one in the stadium. Your family wasn't there, unfortunately. but you still competed at the Olympics. You made your first Olympic final. What did this mean to you, and how'd you feel about your performance here?
Oh, it was crazy. I don't know. I was just like locked in. Like when I got to Tokyo, I think I sent my family a video of, and my partner too, girlfriend at the time. And like after that, I didn't really talk to anyone. I was just like, no phone, just sitting in my room, visualizing for like 6 days straight. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to go out there and like do what I can with my technique and like throw this thing as hard and as far as I can. And I think Dane and I had a good plan going in. Technique was still not good at all. But in terms of like just finding a feeling and finding a way to like work through the throw, we were ready and it worked out.
How do you see this throw now, like, a few years post?
It looks like I have been throwing into a net for 14 months straight since the pandemic because that's what I was doing because we didn't have anywhere to train outside because none of the schools were letting us train. And it looks like I was trying to salvage a throw, which is exactly what it was. So pretty ugly and off balance out of the back, which just continues into the middle. But then at the end, it looks like I also took 4 scoops of pre-workout because I did. I was nauseous afterwards because of how much caffeine I had, but I landed a good throw.
I love how true to the spirit of throwing you are. It's like, yes, it's all about technique, but at the end of the day, you're just a meathead like everyone else. Yeah, I love it.
At the end of the day, the number that matters at big meets is how far you threw.
No style points. So we're going to look here. Now we're fast forward 2022. This is your overall personal best. 68-69 at Tucson Elite. I'm not sure when the last time you've seen this throw is, but like, what do you think of the technique on this throw as compared to other big ones you've had? Because I noticed you just get your left foot down super fast.
Yeah, the left foot's just moving and my right hip is like cranking the whole throw, which is why I think it was so good. And the wind was solid that day. I actually think the best technical throw I've probably had in my career was the 67-meter throw I had in Zagreb later this year because that was like dead wind. But I don't know, this is just one of those days where the disc feels light, you're just moving quick and technique feels kind of on and everything kind of just lined up. Like my easy throws were still far and then my hard throws were very far. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I think this is a technical throw that if you're watching and you're trying to learn how to throw the discus better, watch his PR throw. This throw is very good for technique.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
I would argue you have one of the best techniques in American history. So I would say that people should go watch this throw. No.
Watch the guys from the 80s.
Well, some of them. Some. If you're gonna watch, I would recommend Wolfgang Schmidt. But we're gonna fast forward a few more months. You're at the World Championships. This is a home World Championships in Eugene. So you're no stranger to Eugene. Competed here the year prior where you made the Olympic team. And you threw 65 meters at a World Championship. Yes, I know this is qualifying round, but still.
Oh, yeah. I was hyped. I 2022, I was just feeling good. I had a really good connection with the disc. Felt like, if I get 6 throws, one of them will go over 65. And that happened at just about every meet. Not the final. But that throw felt, good. It's not great. I think I just had a really good connection with the finish. And my hips were moving throughout the whole throw, little off balance and leany, but managed to get through the finish.
Yeah, I mean, looks great. And then you got to make the final with Alex, which was an awesome experience. Cool. Yeah. You did make the Diamond League final in this year, and you actually threw. It seems like distance-wise, 2022 may have been your most consistent best year.
For sure, yeah.
So you got to finish it off by getting 4th place at the Diamond League final. Again, throwing over 65. I know it's not technically a major, but the Diamond League final, at least on the pro circuit, is the closest thing you can get to a major.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was, I think, probably my second best throw ever. Not distance-wise, but just in terms of, the stage, the technique, the technical feeling, and I think I came in 4th at the Diamond League final, which at that time I was super hyped with. I think this was 65 something or another. think I was in second for a while, maybe until like the second or third to last round. But it was just cool to be at that stage and do well.
Yeah. I remember we were all watching this event together, including Jaime. This is like Jaime.
Oh, that's our first.
This
like,
was Jaime's
month in the U.S. basically.
Yes. So we were
That's so
all
funny.
watching the TV in the gym together, watching you throw, and we were so hyped when it got over 65. It's like, yeah. Because that's like the indicator of like you're a true professional athlete. Like you're a true professional who's competitive with the best in the world. If you're throwing over 65 overseas at a major championship, that is like kind of the threshold which makes
For sure.
truly elite discus thrower. So we'll fast forward again to 2023. You captured your second national championship again in Oregon. Take me back. I know I'm saying that a lot, but like, you know, like, how do you feel about confidence-wise going into this national and this title versus the 2019 title?
2019 kind of felt like, all right, I need to do something here. 2023, I was just grateful to be competing. I mean, you know, but yeah. So after 2022 was done, like 2-ish months after the season, found out that I had cancer. Which kind of threw training for a loop for a little bit. Thankfully, it was like anything that could have happened with cancer was like absolute easiest thing to deal with. Just had a surgery, but I was out for a decent bit of time and took a little bit longer than that to like feel like I was at 100% again. So 2023, I was mostly just like happy I could throw. I was feeling pretty decent going into nationals. It was pretty inconsistent season. Like some meets I would throw 65, 66, 67. Other meets I'd throw like 61 or 2 because I just didn't have a lot of training under my belt because I had to take a lot of time off. But by the time nationals came around, I was in like decent spirits and was like, all right, I'm just going to try to throw far today and hope it goes well. And it did.
Well, this is another consistently, good throw over 65 meters. Mm-hmm. And honestly, just real quick, that's got to be some emotional whiplash. You're coming off the best season of your entire life because you finished off in the fall. I believe you competed in Zagreb in September, and then was October you find out?
I think the first week or 2 of November.
So within like a span of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you're like probably on a really good high getting ready for the next season, and then that hits you.
Yeah, it was like, I'm going to throw 70 next year to like, I hope I can throw next year. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. But
I mean, you qualify for another
worked out.
Yeah. You qualify for another world championship, national title. You can't ask for much more than that. And we'll fast forward again to this year. We're at the 2024 trials in what turned out to be the greatest discus competition in American history. Possibly one of the best of all time in the world. We're 7th place through 65 meters. But one thing I want to mention here is we said at the beginning of your pro career, you kind of have a trend of getting it done on your first throw. And again, here you got it done on your first throw, 66 meters in Eugene again. What did this qualification mean to you? Especially knowing that you were in the lead for quite a long time in this competition, or at least second, and you're just seeing the numbers rack. Like, take me back, because we discussed this after trials when I interviewed you. But like in hindsight, are you kind of like, how did that even happen? Like, what do you
still
think?
get stressed watching this, man. Like, 2024 was also like a bizarrely inconsistent year for me. I just never physically felt fantastic. So going into trials, we were just kind of focusing on like, I just need to feel physically good and like have a feeling for a good throw. Like maybe it's not technically perfect, but like if I do XYZ, I'll be in a good position, work through the throw. And especially like nationals, it's important, but especially at like Olympic trials, there's so much pressure. Like if you don't hit your first throw, like that pressure just builds and builds and builds. So getting a good first throw is really, really important. So we had spent probably 6 weeks in training. Just like I would warm up and then we'd sit around for a while and then it'd be like, all right, you need to throw far right now. And I did a ton of work just visualizing what that first throw would be like what I'd do like I wake up in the morning, I have a coffee, here are the meals I'm going to eat, just thinking about that. I'm walking to the stadium, here's the warm up, and then the meet starts, trying to just work through all of it mentally. And then, you get there, took a deep breath, and I was like, all right, this is the throw. And it was, and thank God. Because after that throw, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I should be on the team. Like, nice. I'm going to spend the rest of the competition trying to absolutely blast a throw, which I did. But while that was happening, everybody else starts throwing like 64, 65, 65, 70. Andrew jumps me. Like 5 other people threw 65, 70. I was like, oh, I might actually have to throw further. That's kind of crazy.
Oh, no. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No. Dude, I remember I was up in the rafters. I was trying to get down with the rest of the team to watch you, but for some reason, some lady at the stadium was like not letting me go down there, even though I had a credential. So I had to watch from the top of the rafters. And I was like, when you hit that throw, I was like, yes, let's go. And I'm like, it's over. It's over. 20 minutes later, bro, I'm like, what? Because then like Marcus Gustafson throws 65. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
No disrespect to Marcus. You're a great thrower. But the chart at that point was just like, nothing like that has ever happened in the history of the national.
Usually like you throw 63 something, like you're either in 3rd or 4th most years at worst. Like I made my first Olympic team throwing 62. So like after throwing 66, I was like, all right, we're good. And then like anyone who threw 65, I'm like, damn, that's cool. Like this was really good trials. And then the 4th person threw 65. So it's like, all right, everybody just calm down. But yeah, it was a absolutely nutso meet. So just very thankful I had a good first throw.
I guess the last thing I'll touch on is like, how would you compare this trials versus the first trials?
I definitely felt more prepared and like comfortable in this trials. The first one was more of like, we'll just roll the dice, see what happens, put a lot of work in. So hopefully, something good comes out. But this one, I felt very ready going into it and just felt like I could throw far.
So now we'll get into the last competition. This is the last one you've competed in. This is the Paris Olympic Games. Take me back to Paris. Now instead of throwing in front of a couple hundred people, maybe like 3,000 in a stadium, now you're competing in front of 80,000. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about your performance here in Paris versus your previous Olympics?
Oh, it was not good. Yeah. It just wasn't that good. I was in shape to throw really far. I think I could have probably thrown 66, maybe 67 if I got, everything lined up. But it did not at all. Going into that meet, in training, I would have good throws, but I would also have a lot of throws where I just pull off of it a little early and it would end up going into the cage. And that's what happened. I felt good, just pulled off of the disc a little early twice and had 2 throws in the cage and only 1 mark at 62 something. So it was a bummer. Like I've definitely felt like I should have been in that final. I would not have medaled, but it would have been cool to be in a final again in front of that many people. It was still very cool competing like in the middle of a track surrounded by 80,000 people where like you can't hear the person 3 feet away from you because it's so loud, especially when the French athletes are going. So, I mean, that was really, really cool. Just, wish I did better, but so it goes sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now it's 2025. You were about to start your season. What are you looking forward to in 2025? What are you doing differently in training that has led up to that you think is going to get you, a different result than previous years?
I think I've just acknowledged that I am getting older as an athlete. So when I'm really sore and feeling a little banged up, instead of just going full meathead mode and continuing to throw hard and lift hard, I'm like, all right, I should probably go easy for a couple days. And I think that's just kept me a lot healthier and more consistent in training throughout the year. So I feel really good. Hopefully I can stay healthy. I feel like this has been the best off season of training I've had in a while. I was also able to get to a warm place in the winter, so I'm not just throwing into a net for months at a time, which helps keep a connection and a feeling with the disc. So I'm excited. I think it could be a good year. Hope it is.
Yeah, I think we're all excited to watch what you have coming up this year. You are opening in Ramona, correct?
Probably going to open in San Diego and then Ramona the week after.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're expecting a lot from you, Sam, because we know you have a lot more to give. I don't think you've reached your peak yet. I know you have way more in there left in the tank. So thank you for joining us for today.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to become a better thrower, if you want to improve your technique, if you want to get stronger, you want to throw a specific strength training program, or if you're a coach that wants to improve your coaching, improve your work with your athletes, we have all this and more. We have strength programs, we have technical analysis, we have coaching courses, all available on throwsuniversity.com. Head over there today so you can drop some bombs.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, sir.
And here is Sam Mattis, who broke the 70-meter barrier for the first time on Thursday. Oh, that's a big throw, too. Sam Mattis throws for Garage Strength and works with Dane Miller, Olympian. Can he build off of that 70-meter PR he set Thursday? What a great start for him.
31 years old. He's only about 6 feet tall, so he's a little shorter in stature than a lot of these guys, but he makes up for it in toughness.
71-27.
Oh, baby. We are going to see some big marks today.
71-27. That is enormous. Sam Mattis building on what he started Thursday night with another huge throw.
Unbelievable. Great guy, Sam Mattis, University of Pennsylvania.